The sun had barely risen over Kurukshetra, but the battlefield already hummed with the quiet tension of a storm waiting to break. Arjuna sat in his chariot, the reins of the white horses trembling slightly under Krishna's steady hand. Dust swirled around them, thickening the air like the breath of some unseen beast. Arjuna's eyes scanned the vast expanse before him, and what he saw made his chest tighten with fear and grief. Faces familiar, beloved, revered, stood ready across the lines, armored and prepared for the grim dance of war. Fathers, teachers, brothers, sons, and friends. His heart shrank at the sight of them all. The weight of his lineage, his relationships, and the bonds of love pressed against him like a mountain. "O Krishna," he whispered, his voice trembling, "I see many ill omens. I do not understand. I do not see any good in killing my own people." The words hung in the air, fragile and quivering. His limbs felt weak, almost foreign. His hands, which had drawn countless arrows in victories past, now shook as they hovered near Gandiva, his mighty bow. His body felt aflame from the tips of his hair to the soles of his feet. Goosebumps ran along his arms, as though the battle itself had struck him with cold fire. I cannot steady myself," he gasped, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes darted helplessly from one familiar face to another, searching for some answer in the expressions of those he loved. The faces stared back, unreadable behind their masks of duty and armor. In that instant, the battlefield, the horses, the chariots, the banners flapping in the breeze seemed secondary to the whirlwind inside him. His mind spun, his stomach churned. The notion of victory was meaningless. The thought of striking down his own kinsmen filled him with despair so deep that the earth beneath his feet felt like it might vanish. Arjuna's gaze lingered on the familiar faces of warriors he had known all his life. There was Bhishma, the stalwart grandfather, who had guided generations with wisdom, his silver hair flowing over his shoulders, eyes piercing and calm. Drona, the teacher whose strict lessons had sharpened Arjuna's mind and muscles alike, stood poised with bronze armor glinting in the morning sunday. Duryodhana, his cunning cousin, grinned with prideful arrogance, while Lakshmana, his own son, and others who had grown up in his household now bore weapons in silent readiness. The flood of memories, laughter, lessons, meals shared, battles fought together made Arjuna's heart ache with unbearable sorrow. Each face seemed to look at him, waiting for his strike, and yet filled with the warmth of familiar love. How can I fight them?" he murmured, trembling. "These are my people, my sons, my teachers, my friends. How could my hands raise a bow against them?" His throat constricted, his chest felt hollow, and his knees wavered. Gandiva, the mighty bow he had wielded to defeat countless armies, now seemed to weigh him down like a lifeless branch. His fingers could barely wrap around the grip. The very earth beneath him felt alien, unsteady, as though sensing the turmoil in his soul. Krishna's eyes met his, calm and patient, radiating an almost divine reassurance. Yet Arjuna could barely see beyond the storm of his emotions. The battlefield faded into a blur of dust and banners, as his mind consumed itself with fear, grief, and bewilderment. A heat surged through Arjuna's body, not born of the sun, not of the exertion of battle, but from the overwhelming sorrow that had settled in his heart. His skin burned, his muscles tensed uncontrollably, and a cold shiver ran over his arms and neck, as though the battlefield itself conspired against him. I cannot fight," he whispered again, voice cracking. "What good can come from striking down my own kin? Fathers, teachers, brothers, sons, friends, all here, all in my path." His mind, trained and disciplined through years of rigorous warfare, rebelled against him. Thoughts whirled in an endless, chaotic spiral. Every lesson in strategy, every heroic tale of victory he had ever known, seemed hollow. His vision blurred. The ground appeared to ripple under the weight of his grief. "Krishna," he cried suddenly, desperation cutting through the haze. "Why does my courage fail now, when it never failed before? Why does my body shake, my skin burn, my hair stand on end?" He clutched at his chest, trying to anchor himself, but it was no use. His bow slipped from his trembling hands and clattered on the wooden floor of the chariot. He sank slightly, knees bending, fighting not to collapse entirely. Arjuna's thoughts returned again and again to the faces he loved. The very sight of them armed, ready to fight, caused his mind to reel. Images of Bhishma guiding generations, Drona's stern eyes drilling into his own, Duryodhana's smugness, and the innocent faces of the young warriors blurred together into a storm that made him dizzy. "My mind, it cannot settle," he murmured. "I see only sorrow and evil in front of me. What can possibly come from this battle?" The mental strain intensified the sensations in his body. His limbs quivered, his stomach tightened, his chest rose and fell erratically. Every breath he took felt like fire through his lungs, every heartbeat a drum of despair. "I am not weak," he whispered, almost pleading with himself. "Yet I feel helpless. I have fought and won battles before, but now I am undone." The battlefield, with its banners and clanging armor, faded into insignificance. Only the faces remained, the living reminders of everything he loved, everything he could never bear to harm. The knowledge of duty, once clear, now collided violently with his heart. Arjuna's mind, now fixed on the single relentless thought, "I cannot kill my own people. I cannot. I see many ill omens," he cried aloud, voice trembling. "O Krishna, I see no good, no gain, only grief and destruction if my arrows fly." The egotistic thought of "I and mine" engulfed him. His love for his kin, his teachers, his sons and friends became chains binding his spirit. Every instinct he had as a warrior seemed opposed to his heart's cry. "Why does my duty demand that I destroy those I cherish? Why must righteousness appear so cruel?" he cried, fists gripping the reins of the chariot. His body shook violently, sweat dripping from his brow, hair sticking to his face. Krishna said nothing, but his eyes radiated understanding. He waited patiently as Arjuna poured forth his anguish. The battlefield faded behind them into dust and haze, leaving only the chariot, the trembling warrior, and the silent, steady presence of his guide. Arjuna sank into the chariot seat, exhausted, his body trembling, lips quivering. His face was pale, streaked with tears and dust. He turned toward Krishna with a voice breaking under the weight of his despair. "O Krishna, I see only ill omens. I do not understand what good could come from killing my own people. How can I lift my bow when every arrow feels like a wound to my soul?" His voice rose in desperation, echoing across the battlefield, though the soldiers and horses seemed frozen in time around him. His mind, his body, his very soul cried for understanding, for relief, for clarity. Krishna's calm gaze met his, full of compassion, patience, and unspoken wisdom. In that moment, Arjuna's helplessness, his grief, and his fear were not met with scorn or impatience, but with silent understanding. The turning point had begun. The battlefield outside remained a scene of impending war, but inside Arjuna's heart, the seed of knowledge, the path that would free him from confusion and weakness, had been planted. The war he faced was no longer just outside, against armies. It was within himself, against fear, attachment, and ignorance. And in that stillness, amidst tears and trembling limbs, Arjuna realized he could seek guidance, he could find clarity, and he could confront the challenge of Dharma itself.